Hi everyone, I'm Megan Fox and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do I don't know if I've ever seen a video like this before, but I'm really excited to film it. We're kind of limited right now with the whole social distancing of what I can film, and I just thought it would be really fun to take you guys around Lancaster County. You can see like the landscape and stuff, and we would answer some of your questions about our dating relationship back in the day. Josh is here with me. So this is kind of a date for us. So I'm not gonna have the camera out the whole time because it's supposed to be fun for us too. But I thought I'd just show you some of the little iconic landmarks of and just tell you little bits and pieces of our dating story. Our dating relationship, I would say, was pretty typical for at least Mennonites in our area. It's not like some crazy interesting breakup and makeup and like all this stuff. But to us, it's our story, and I don't know, some of you that are maybe not as familiar with the Mennonite culture, you'll find this really interesting. And yeah, I just wanted to preface this by saying we started dating at 17 and 18. And then we got married when Josh was 19 and I was 20. So it wasn't a super long period of time, but it was some of the best years of our lives, I would say. Some of the hardest too, probably. You know, when you're that age, you're still trying to figure yourself out. But anyway, I just thought it would be fun to show you guys the beautiful countryside of Lancaster County. And also, yeah, you can find out a little bit more about our dating years. Anyway, so let's get going. So right there is the field we used to run into in the fall, and there'd be like all these round hay bales. I always loved round hay bales. Anyway, and we'd sit in there on a blanket on a round hay bale and look at the stars and talk about who knows what. I'm sure you can imagine between me and Josh, there's always plenty to talk about. So Josh and I were kind of acquaintances from a youth group. Our youth group was maybe like 40 to 50 people, and I always just thought of him as younger because he was my brother's friend, and he was like almost a year younger than me, and so he wasn't really on my radar that much. But in 2010 I started noticing him a little bit more, and we were, you know, conveniently hanging out more and more often. He'd come pick my brother up in snowy roads and stuff, and then he'd offer to drive me. So I want to show you where I was when he asked me out. Okay, it was my senior year of high school, and I was driving to work after school one day, and I was at this intersection right here, and I'd called Josh. I saw when I got home from school, I'd left my phone at home for some reason, which was fine. We're not allowed to have our phones. We weren't allowed to have our phones in class anyway, so it didn't really mess up my day too much. But I saw when I got home that Josh had been calling me or texting me and told me to call him. So I called him thinking, like right there at that time, we were trying to plan a volleyball tournament team, and we both love volleyball. So I was driving this route and talking to Josh on the phone, and he did not want to ask me out on the phone. He's like, didn't want to do that. But when he wanted to ask me out, I was like, I showed up at a volleyball thing. You're gonna notice there's a lot of volleyball in our story. We love to play sports together anyway. And why didn't you, what were we gonna do? You're gonna like just corner me after volleyball and say, hey, you want a date, or what? What was the plan?
I don't know. I was just pretty much making it up as I go along. I don't know.
Anyway, but I was so sick and I actually like had the stomach bug then later, but I went home early, so he missed his chance. So he just wanted to like get me to go somewhere with him so he could ask me out. So he calls me and he's like, hey, you wanna go out to eat? And our friend group had been hanging out a whole bunch over that time, and so I thought, what, he wants to hang out on a Monday night? Like, I was like, well, who's all going? You know, like, why is he trying to get people to get together to go out to eat on a, you know, back in the days when you were allowed to go out to eat? Do you guys remember those? Anyway, and I was like, well, who's all going? And what did you say?
Just us two?
Yeah, he's like, I was just thinking me and you. And I was like, wait, Josh Fox, are you asking me out? I just like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking straight, I just threw it out there. He's like, well, I was gonna get around to it, that's what I was trying to do. He didn't want to ask me out on the phone, but yeah, he kind of had to then. Anyway, so I was like, oh my goodness, sure, yeah. Anyway, and then we'll tell you the next part of our story at the next location. So it might seem really random to take you guys to a Sonic, but that's where our story really kind of started.
What should I get?
Get what we always get, a lime limeade, right? Strawberry limeade. We do not like, I don't like Sonic food, but I love their drinks. Their strawberry limeade is so good. So I went and worked at Fairmount that evening, came flying home. I didn't even shower. Oh, that's so disgusting. I just combed my hair again quickly, and then me and Josh went to a jam session? I don't know, we've never done that before since, but my friends that played instruments were getting together, and me and Josh snuck in. Josh snuck in the front and I snuck in the back so that people wouldn't know we came together. Like, it was really odd. We already had this planned on a Monday night anyway. So we were there for a while singing and playing music, and then Josh snuck out and I snuck out. Like, we didn't know if we were really dating or what. Like, we hadn't really had a chance to talk yet. I don't know why I just didn't cancel my plans. It was ridiculous, but whatever. We were 18 and dumb. And so then we left early from there and drove here to Sonic and just sat in this exact spot, I think. And we just talked about, what were we gonna date? Or were we gonna wait? Like, his parents didn't care if he dated at 17, which, Evonnie, no dating at 17. And I wanted to date I didn't want to date till I was graduated, so we kind of came to the conclusion that, you know, it was Christmas time coming up, or like, yeah, we won't go into each other's family stuff and that kind of thing. We'll just like, kind of like, me and him are together, everybody knows it, but we were gonna just like group date, and those were some of the best months, I would say. Like, we got to be together and stuff, and we were like boyfriend and girlfriend, but we weren't like spending tons of alone time together. We were with friends and youth group, and we played lots of volleyball Sunday nights and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't regret that at all. It helped slow things down a little bit too, because we were pretty young. Yeah, and then in June, after I graduated, we had our first date, and then we dated, you know, for 2 years after that. So that's kind of how our story began.
That building wasn't there before.
Nope, they just built it. Okay, so this is what the campus is looking like right now at the retirement home I used to work at. It's changed a lot since then, but we're not gonna get out or anything like that, just to do with everything. But I wanted to show you the awesome view from here. This place is built on the most awesome place. It's like Giant Hill in Farmersville, and it's just a beautiful area. Yeah, you can look around and see for miles. Wow, that's so pretty. This fisheye lens makes my arm look so big. Anyway, I thought we'd just sit here and answer a couple of your questions. I have 6 right here quick. Josh, what first attracted you to Megan? What made you notice her over other girls?
I don't know. Probably energy, spunk. And she was good looking, so, you know.
What did y'all do on dates? Well, we're gonna tell you a lot more about that as we like travel around, but we did a lot of stuff with groups. And when we did things by ourselves, we often were doing things too. I don't know, we'd also, more low-key stuff, we'd go on walks or sit out on the deck and look at the stars. I don't know. What do you remember doing? We played a lot of volleyball Sunday nights. Yeah. We did course tours together and stuff like that. That was always fun because you got to like see each other for like a whole like 5 days in a row. That was like a treat. Or mission trips. Heidi Marie asked, are there things you regret? I'm one of those people that always is trying to like make my future self proud, and so I hate regrets. Like, when I have regrets, they like I just do not want to have regrets. Anyway, so I think we were pretty like, I don't know, we had pretty high dating standards. It might be, I don't know if this would surprise you or not. We're not going to take you to the spot, but we did kiss before we got married, and that was always in the plan. That wasn't like a mess up or anything. We did not want to be having our first kiss on our wedding day. I don't regret it at all, but I'm sure it'd be really special to save it for your wedding day too. Also, in Mennonite weddings, you don't kiss the bride in the front of the church. I'm not sure how common it is for Mennonites, at least in our area, to wait until their wedding day for their first kiss. I know most of our friends didn't, but yeah, when we
would have been engaged.
We were a month out from being married, so yeah, it was actually a thought out thing, a planned out thing, and I don't have any regrets from it at all. I'm glad. I just know for myself, I'm like super awkward already, and it's like a high emotional day. And I didn't want to do it on my wedding day. But if you have that goal for yourself and you're dating, like, stick to it. You have to make yourself proud. Don't worry about what other people think. You need to worry about what God thinks, and then you also have to live with yourself every day at the end of the day. Like, I had a rule, like, I didn't want to hold his hand until, like, we were officially dating, and we didn't start officially dating until I graduated, so that was, like, a good 6 months. And we also kind of try to be respectful of other people who like weren't dating, so we didn't want to always be holding hands all the time and stuff. So that was something we really had in mind. I had this funny thing, which you guys can laugh at me, but I did not want to. I read somewhere about you shouldn't like be laying down together to look at the stars or anything like that. So I remember one time we were like laying on a blanket looking at the stars. Well, we were sitting on a blanket looking at the stars, and Josh laid down, or no, I was laying down, and then Josh laid down too. So I sat up, and then he sat up, and I laid. Anyway, it was so funny. And he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, I promised myself that we were never gonna lay down together anywhere." Anyway, I don't regret it at all. It might sound a little cheesy, but like, just like, if it's a rule you made for yourself, don't let anybody else make you feel bad about it. Especially your other half too, you know, or the guy you're dating. Yeah, if there's any like younger girls watching, like if I'm your big sister or whatever, I would say, you know, you make your standards as strict as you want, but also make them that you're going to be able to keep them, that you don't feel guilty for breaking them later. So yeah, I don't know. Do we have any regrets? I mean, not physically wise. I'm sure, like, I didn't always, we were very honest though with each other. I was always under the mindset that, like, if we're gonna break up, I want to break up sooner rather than later, because it's just gonna be harder later on. So we tried to address, like, the big things pretty decently early on. And like, we always knew we're in it to, like, if this works out, we're getting married. Right? Yeah. And that's just also our culture too. So, like, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, it might sound like a big crazy thing for you guys, but for us it was like pretty normal. We had good peer pressure around us and stuff, I would say. Okay, somebody wants to know what was the first thing that I noticed about Josh, and I would say it was, I don't know, he was like manly, if a 17-year-old can be manly. And he was like fun. I don't know. He also had like confidence. I always liked a confident guy, but not like an arrogant guy, and that's like really, really hard to, like, that's a hard line to find. He was into sports and stuff, and like, I think it's important to say, like, when he asked me out, I didn't know a ton about him. I just said yes because I thought he was cool, and like, that's okay. It's not like I need to know his whole life goals and stuff just to agree to date him and everything. And yeah, I think God just worked it all out then at the end. Do you wish you had done anything differently? Maybe. I think it would be cool if somehow we could have met later on in life, just so we could have had chances to do like missions trips and things like that. But like, God is doing so much stuff with our lives now, like being young and married, like obviously there was a plan for it. Right? Like, I would not
trips together after we were married too.
I wouldn't do it differently, but I do, like, sometimes look at the girls that have a chance to, like, you know, go on trips or mission trips or things like that, and be like, wow, I never had that time of life, really. But I would never want to go back and redo it again, if you know what I'm saying. And I probably, honestly, would have just probably kept teaching school if I hadn't met Josh, because I love teaching school. I felt so alive when I was teaching. And one more question yet before we move on. Who was interested in who first? Josh.
Oh yeah, probably.
Josh was interested, I think, but like, when he asked me out, I didn't like stutter around a bunch. I said yes.
I mean, I had a pretty good feeling that it kind of seemed like everything was going that direction.
So right now we are taking you to our first church that we attended for the first 5 years of our marriage, maybe. We were told, I don't know if it's true or not, but this is the highest point in Lancaster County. So how many feet is this, do you think? I don't know, but Lancaster County is it's very hilly, but it's pretty flat, so it's not that high. Okay, here is the church we went to for the first probably 5 years we were married. It used to be white, and they re-sided it. It was this little white church up on a hill. We could not get married here because it's too small, and our wedding was like 350 people. So we got married at my church. Okay, this little farm property here is where we actually took our engagement pictures. It's changed a lot since, you know, then, almost 7 years ago. But I'll insert some clips here of our wedding pictures. And yeah, this place was all like beautiful and green. And I think we liked the barn and just the fields and stuff around. And so the old, like right here, look at this. I have some pictures right there at that barn. Yeah, the lady was so nice and just let us take pictures on her property. then he was a trucker, and then he was a preacher, so he wanted to move closer to church. So they moved around several times. And so this house that you're about to see, I'm going to show you where we used to have dates and stuff sometimes, down at Josh's house. He moved there when he was 13, right?
Yep, something like that.
And yeah, then he lived there till he got married. And yeah, I just wanted to show it to you really quickly here. They actually just sold it. His parents just moved another 20 minutes south from here to take care of his grandparents. And so they don't live nearby at all anymore. But hey, it's better than 2 hours away, I guess. So we were dating for a while, and then we realized, like, yeah, okay, this is for good. We found our person. But we weren't really old enough to get married right away. So we waited to get engaged probably we were dating for 2 years, and then Josh decided he's gonna pop the question. It was like November 31st, and we went back to this farm here. We actually went out to Olive Garden, which doesn't sound very amazing, but that was like where we went on our first like official date after I graduated. And so we went back there for old time's sake, and then he brought me back to this farm here. And then he came back here and he had a fire blazing. And what else did you have? You didn't have, the roses were hidden, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I should have saw what was coming anyway. But I think I probably felt it in my heart, but I didn't think it in my head. I didn't realize it. We're just like driving through the property. Anyway, I guess they're family acquaintances of yours. They had like this little honeymoon cottage thing back there. And so we sat there around the campfire, and did we roast marshmallows and stuff? You had some stuff set up. And then yeah, he got down on one knee and proposed, and I was like in shock. Did I say yes right away? I just remember it was like a full moon. I like just looked up at the sky and up at the stars. I'm like, oh my word, I can't believe this is happening. Like I just let it soak in for a second because I wanted to enjoy it. And then I was like, yes, or whatever. And he thought he was gonna kiss me then, but he chickened out, I think. And I'm glad he didn't, because then we waited another 6 months or whatever. So that was fine. I always wanted to have a fun story. Should we go back? Are we allowed to?
Sure.
It says private.
That sign's always been there.
I just realized I said this was November 31st we got engaged. I don't think there is a November 31st. It was November 30th. And it was the day you had just settled on your house that you bought, which will show you our first house in just a sec. Yeah, right here we were. There was a bench though, right?
I brought a bench over.
Yeah, he had a bench over here, and we sat here and the fire was roaring. He had his parents come and set it up ahead of time. And then in this little cottage, he had flowers. And oh, he had gifts for me too, because it was like my birthday date. And up here, the full moon was like night out. It was pretty cool. And then his parents came over and shut down the fire and all that stuff after we left. House. If you guys have been around my channel for a while, you remember it. We actually just moved out of here in July, but that was our first starter home. So cute and small. And yeah, just a really nice neighborhood. We had Amish neighbors, and actually we had a cop for a neighbor. He was really cool. We lived close to a butcher shop. Yeah, we lived there for 6 years. We moved on our 6th anniversary, actually. Why don't you tell him what it was like when you were getting our house together? Like, he bought it and then he proposed to me that evening. So I was not involved in any of the decision making of if we should buy it or not. You did ask me about it, right? And I'm like, well, yeah. I don't feel like I should have an opinion.
She refused to give me any opinions because we're not getting married. She said.
We weren't engaged, anyway.
Well, that's fine. I'll just buy the house and you'll just have to deal with it. That's what happened. But, so we decided that, well, the house was a fixer-upper. I mean, it was sat empty for 2 years, I think, something like that. An old lady had lived there. So we pretty much, we didn't gut it necessarily, but we took everything out. New kitchen, new bathroom.
Knock out a wall, add a door.
Yeah, kind of changed the bathroom layout a little bit. Tell
about the process, like how that was being engaged. Like, do you recommend that to other people?
Oh, sure, absolutely. It was good. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, you got to do something. You can't just sit. I loved it. I mean, I worked a full-time job.
But you had
got off work at 5, and then I would stop at Turkey Hill, get a hot dog and a Coke, 2 hot dogs and a Coke, and I would go right to work at the house, work till 10 o'clock or so, and then go home, sleep, do it all over again the next day.
So you did construction from like 5 in the morning to 10 at night. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then you like had a mortgage. Hey, it gave you something to work for, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I would say, like, some people are like, how long should you be engaged? We were engaged 7 months and 20 days, and I think it was perfect. I was teaching school yet, and yeah, he was working on the house, so we used up every day, but it wasn't stressful. Like, I feel like it was just the perfect amount of time, right? Like, we weren't like down to the wire trying to get everything finished at the last minute, but we also had stuff to do. Like, we were busy.
And not everyone is fixing up a house like we did.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
And we also weren't trying to find a house like while we were engaged, so that was really nice. Like, that he had bought it, you know, right the day we got engaged, so we weren't house hunting together or anything like that, and I think that also relieved a lot of stress. But it's obviously a little bit stressful trying to remodel a house together.
We did cut the time pretty close. I mean, we moved furniture in like 2 weeks before we got married.
Yeah, but it was like perfect timing. Because then I had the next 2 weeks to get the wedding set up and all my stuff down from my house to our new house. And I don't know, I thought it was like perfect. But you kind of fill up the time you have, I guess, you know? And so, yeah, I think the timeline we did worked great for us, but not everybody is like that. Okay, I have a few more questions here that you guys ask. Were you hands off? No. A few milestones I would say is, I refused to hug you until you went off to CASP. He was gone for a whole month on VS work, and I was like, I knew he was gonna go, so I was like, I'm not hugging you until then. And so we didn't hug for probably the first year and a little bit. Yeah, it was a long time until we had a first hug. But we held hands, I would say 6 months after we were dating, and we kissed a month before we were married. Yeah, and somebody asked you, what were our dating standards, and would we want our kids to follow the same rules? Yes, right? Yeah. We're also both the oldest, so I feel like we had felt like responsibility a little bit with our little brothers and sisters and stuff. At least I did. Like, I was the big sister, and I wanted to be like, I didn't want to be like telling them I messed up, don't do that, you know, whatever. So I feel like we both had a sense of like responsibility and that we were examples. How long was it from first date to wedding day? 2 years, 7 months, and 20 days. You are so pretty. Do you two ever argue while dating? We argued here and there. And our first fight, I always call them fights because, I mean, if you're arguing, it's a fight, right? But I guess I should just call it more arguments. But we did, our first argument after we were married was on our honeymoon, like the last day, I think, or something. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember like crying as we were going on a walk or whatever and at our honeymoon resort.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, it wasn't anything important. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't say we had like bad periods and good periods. I would say we had bad days, you know, here and there. Like, it wasn't like, oh my word, this 1 year of marriage was so rough. And I will say, like, when we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do with, like, where we wanted to go to church and stuff, we were really talking about, like, the big life issues and what we wanted for our family and things. And I feel like that was some of the hardest times, but also some of the best, because, like, we were having, like, really, like, deep discussions and stuff. And it was, like, us against the world. Like, what do we want to do? How involved were your parents in the relationship? They were as involved as we let them be, probably, but they weren't, like, pushy or anything like that. But we both had good relationships with our parents, I would say, for the most part. My parents love Josh, so they trusted him. That helped a lot.
Megan. No, it was, no, there was no problems with parents, for sure not.
Did you find dating as Christians challenging with the pressure of a modern society? No, because we had such good peer pressure, I would say. I mean, like, okay, I don't want to come across that all Mennonites are so, like, I mean, just because that's how we did it doesn't mean that's how everybody does it. Right. But I would say for the most part we did have good peer pressure.
Our group of friends was pretty good.
But I think some of that would say our standards were pretty high. But I don't regret it at all.
We held ourselves to those standards.
Yeah.
I mean,
How does dating work in the Mennonite community? Well, basically, you ask the dad first most of the time.
In most cases, the guy would, I asked your dad.
Because you were serious about it.
If I can ask you out.
Yeah, and I think that's how my brothers and sisters would have been too.
Then I think then when I proposed to you, I also talked to your dad about that too.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed coming along on our story of our dating years. It was fun for us to look back and reminisce and just see how, you know, God really did have a plan in it all. And the story's not over. I mean, who knows what we're going to do with our lives yet or what he wants to do with us. And I hope you also enjoyed seeing Lancaster County. If you liked this video at all or learned anything new, I would invite you to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you have not. And I will see you guys all next week.